guys, here come the dollies. They got fresh sinkers, hot coffee, and the sweetest smile.
Welcome back to the Clubmobile, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
It's
Hello.
special edition book club. So our book club correspondent Sage is here with us.
I'm so excited to be back.
Yay!
You get more Sage content.
Yes, more
exciting
Sage
for all of
content
us.
and more books.
Oh
So-
no! How
Oh
terrible!
no!
Oh, no.
Everyone else.
Did we just say, all right, we have to get to work? Oh no, talking about books, how tragic.
Oh no! Oh no!
What work?
Split hair behind ear.
Yes.
For those that have kept track, for this past quarter we had Beantown Girls by Jane Healey. We had Shot Down by Stephen Snyder, Spitfires by Becky Aikman, and an 8th Air Force Combat Diary by Joan Clark of the 100th Bomb Group. So we had a pretty good quarter, I
It
think.
was a bit robust. Yeah,
It
we
was
had Red
robust,
Cross,
and
we
we
had
had-
pilots, we had B-17s,
Yeah, we had all kinds of stuff. and
escape
I
and
like how
evasion. I mean, we had everything this
Yeah.
quarter. What a way to start the year, too.
It was, yeah. I think
quite
it
the
was a
range.
really,
Yeah.
it was excellent choices all around. Did anyone have a favorite of the four?
I think we all have the same favorite.
Did we have the same favorite? My favorite was Spitfires. This was like
Mine
my
was
fourth time doing
Spitfires.
it.
Yeah. Spitfires.
I
Yeah.
loved Spitfires. I
It's-
loved them
oh.
all for different reasons, but I really
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
loved Spitfires so much. But I loved Beantown Girls too. Because
Yeah.
obviously we have
Yeah.
such a special place for the Red Cross girls. And even though
Yeah,
this
I
one was
think-
historical fiction, it was still really great.
Let's start there with
Yeah.
our review. So Beantown Girls by
Mm.
Jane Healey. It is about 3 young girls that enlist in the Red Cross from their hometown together. They're all friends, right? They've all been friends since high school,
They're
college.
all childhood
Yeah.
friends from Boston,
From-
which is
Right.
why it's Beantown Girls.
Beantown.
And it's got a bit of a this is where the historical fiction comes in. It's got a bit of a twist where one of the girls joins because her fiance is serving in the European theater, and he's declared missing in action, and she wants to know what
She goes
happened
to
to him.
find him.
So she joins
Yeah.
the Red Cross and convinces her 2 friends to join with her so that she can go over there and find her fiance.
Yeah.
This is the bit of historical fiction where when I was reading it, I went, oh, I don't know that would really happen.
Yeah, and I don't know if
Yeah.
But it's
obviously
very
she was not honest about her intentions to
Correct.
join, so I'm not entirely
Mhm.
sure. Like, yes, it may have happened in some circumstances,
Yeah.
but she may not have been
Mhm.
honest about it until
Mhm.
we see her be honest about it way later. I enjoyed it. The pacing at the beginning for me was a bit like a train that's sort of stopping and going, like stop, go, stop, go. I think I was expecting another Good Night, Irene, and I'm not. This isn't a bad review of the book at all. I thought it was really great. But I think I went in expecting something as hard-hitting as Good Night, Irene, because you're
Mhm.
instantly in. It captured all 3 of us so quickly. And I think I was expecting a similar feeling. And when I didn't get it,
Yeah.
I almost felt disappointed.
I think I was the first one to read Beantown Girls. And
Yes, you were.
I kept saying to you both,
Stick with it.
Stick with it. Like, stick with it. It got to a point after a certain chapter where it was almost like somebody turned the octane up and it just took off.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Just-
And it was right after they see Major Glenn Miller.
Yes.
Mhm. Loved that part,
And
by the way.
I loved that
So
part.
good.
And we should probably backtrack by saying the names of the 3 girls that joined
Of course,
together,
yes.
right?
Yes.
We're just like so
Yeah.
into it. It's Fiona, Viviana, and Dottie are the 3 friends. And it's Fiona's fiance, Danny, who is declared missing in action. So
Yes.
she convinces Viv and Dottie to join with her. And Viv is really outgoing, and Dottie is a very shy musician.
Very shy and introverted.
Introverted, not with her friends, but with the other
Yeah.
soldiers.
Everyone
And
else.
It's very fun to kind of see them, like, their dynamic of meeting the other girls in the other trucks. learning
Yeah.
how to drive the trucks, weighing their water, right? Make their donuts, weigh their water. Viv is complaining that her red nail polish is going to chip and now it's in the donut dough.
In the donuts.
But I definitely think that after the Glenn Miller bit, the whole story just really shot off because you get to see them with the men. And that's the whole point of it, right? That's the whole point of what these women are doing. You can absolutely tell that Jane Healey did all of her research on the Red Cross.
Absolutely.
She dug in deep and she did all of her research, and not just on the Red Cross, but on the army units that these women would have been visiting, on the different locations they would have been to. And I loved that.
Me too.
I really did.
I really did.
What did you think of the timeline of it, Sage? Like, what was your take on it? Like after because I know we kept saying, and then Glenn Miller, and then you were like, you were right.
Yeah, I did feel like at the start, like when he said, it was a bit of stop and go. But yeah, and then it started picking up, and then Glenn Miller happened. I was like, oh, this is amazing, actually.
Now we're here. Yeah.
And then we get to like, oh, they're meeting all of the fellas. And like they're getting, I don't know, I guess trying to think of the right word, like more involved.
Yes.
With like everything that's going on. And that's where I felt like it really picked up. And
it started to feel less historical fiction and more historical right after the Glenn Miller thing happens.
Yeah.
Like I feel like when they're on the boat to England, I still feel it's very obviously it's all fiction all the way through. It's still very I think a lot of the things that I said to you both was that I don't feel like she would say that. I don't feel like this would be said. I don't feel like the speech patterns were not.
I think some of the dialogue didn't lend itself to the 40s, maybe?
Yes. Whereas because in Goodnight Irene, it's very accurate, and the nicknames they give each other in Goodnight Irene are very of the time and the way that they speak in their like you can hear their cadences. Whereas in this, the cadence I was getting was the way we would talk to each other. But again, that isn't a slight. If anything, that made it easier to get through. Like you're not looking up a definition of something every 2 minutes.
Right.
I did really enjoy it, but I think my gripe at the beginning was that I thought, oh, I'm getting another Goodnight Irene, and I'm gonna feel my heart being ripped out of my chest again, and I'm gonna, oh my god, I'm gonna be despondent for 2 days. And I wasn't, and I think that's when I was like, oh. Not that it was disappointing. I think it's great. I was just, my expectations were very high going in, I think.
I did like her evolution, Fiona. She does start off as a bit of and once again, not a slight, she starts off as a bit of a wet blanket, right?
Yes.
She's very depressed. She's very sad.
Which is fair.
Which is fair.
Yeah,
exactly.
For a whole situation.
It's so fair. But I kept going, would the Red Cross have taken her? Would the Red Cross have taken any of them? Maybe Viv. Viv would have been.
Possibly not.
But possibly not. But would the Red Cross have taken them? And then I kept saying, would the Red Cross have taken the three of them together as a unit? Probably not.
Would they have kept them together?
Would they have kept them together? But then to see them all kind of become individual, like they start out as a unit, the three of them.
They all
and it's like it's Fiona, Viv, and Dottie, the three of them together. And then to kind of see them become Fiona, Viv, Dottie, all three individuals who now function as a unit, but are three individual girls. That I loved. I really loved that. They all kind of find their own way. They find their own place. And they all kind of
separate.
They separate, but they remain together.
They kind of just like, they come into their own.
They do. They become individuals. They do. They become individuals. And that was really great to see. That was really great to see.
I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed the little twists and turns that we were given within it. I just think my expectations were really high.
Yeah.
And I had to sort of like reel myself in a little
Yeah.
bit.
I did tear up at the end.
No, I did too. I had a bit of
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my goodness. It was
I had a
very,
bit
very
of a
sweet
moment at the end,
Yeah.
especially because she finds out that her fiance Danny had been alive as a POW the entire time, and then he died
Yeah.
on the march to Moosburg.
Yeah.
He was not even died, he was executed.
He was always
Mhm.
And I
he was
think it was
always alive the whole
poised.
time she was looking for him.
Yeah, the whole time she was looking for
Yeah.
him, he was alive. And
then when it comes to
And
it,
then
where
she
she's
gets
almost
there
there,
and
when she gets there at the end, the girls
Yeah.
are sent to be relief at one of these prison camps, and it's the prison
Yeah.
camp where his men are. His
Mhm.
unit, or some of the
Yeah.
men from his unit are there. And it's like she gets so close,
And then it's sort of snatched away.
but
I
she
feel
does
like
get her answer at the end.
Mhm.
it seems like the final stage of grief for her, because the whole way through she's going through every single stage
Yes.
Yeah.
of grief and what grief gives you, and then
Yeah.
at that moment it's acceptance and she can move on.
Mhm.
And she does move on, and she's very happy at the end of the book. But I think it's the going through the grief cycle within the book.
Yeah, you had
like
even said to
how-
me at one point, you were like, he's either dead or he's a POW.
yeah, I was like,
Mhm.
there's no way. Like this, if the
Because
twist is that
when
she
they
finds him.
when they introduced Major Moretti from the 82nd Airborne in her timeline, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this has to be the guy. I was like, please let this be
Yeah.
the guy. Like, please
I
let him
didn't.
be the one at the end for her. Like, I'm
Yeah.
begging you,
Mhm.
because I didn't want to see her go back to being pre-Red
She would
Cross
have gone
Fiona. She would have
backwards.
gone
Yeah.
back to the person she was, and all of her evolution would have been for nothing. So I was like, please let
Yeah, I
him
was
be the
hopeful.
Yeah.
one. And
I
he
feel like
was.
even though Fiona was the main character, I feel like we also see so much evolution in the other two,
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Especially
Dottie.
Mhm.
She goes from being so
Dottie. I
introverted
love Dottie.
and into herself.
Mhm.
She was great. I loved her evolution the
Mhm.
most out of all three of them, because she went from very, very shy to
The
finally
most
having
outgoing and
yeah
traveling with the Glenn Miller Orchestra at the
yeah
end.
Mhm.
And she
amazing.
also they all found love at the end. They all
Yes.
met somebody
Yes.
and fell in love, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
Which was so
And they're
great.
all going off and doing their individual things.
Right. They're
And
all now taking a different direction, but they're
yeah.
still, three best friends, which is
Yes.
really
Yeah.
sweet.
I think for me it was like I said, the beginning was very stop and go, and I'm like, when are we gonna get to the
Yeah.
juice of this?
Yeah.
And then we do, and it's like I couldn't put it down after that.
Mhm. I feel like I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like the beginning was closer to like a historical romance, emphasis on the romance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then as it
agreed.
progressed, it was like, oh yeah, there's a war.
Yeah, like wait, then you remember like the reason why they are there.
Yeah. Like I was always
agreed.
like, I always want to see them overseas. Like,
Yeah.
and I know all of
Yeah.
these women trained in the States. They were all in DC
Mhm.
at some point, and they were at staging bases in the States, and who was at Grand Central and whatever. But for me, the meat and potatoes of any kind of Red Cross story is
when they go.
let me see them on base. Let me see them interact with the men. Let me read about them interacting
Absolutely,
with the fellas. Like, that's what I
Let
want to
me-
see.
Let me see the anxiousness of going to the front. Let me see
Yeah.
how scared they are,
Mhm.
Yes.
knowing they're going into the war, like the war
Yeah.
itself.
Mhm.
So I liked that aspect of it. I really enjoyed,
Yeah.
feeling
Yes.
that anxiousness the same way we
Mhm.
do with the rest of the Red Cross books that we have
Yeah.
read. Real from letters or fictionalized.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I'm really glad that it was historically accurate. Just like I said, the beginning, I was like, where is this going? What's happening?
But there was
And then you
not a minute where I doubted that she did her research. She had it all down to
it
the
was
she had it all
excellent.
down
Excellent.
to the
Mhm.
finest details.
And I think we mentioned this right before we began, that she wrote it in it was released in 2019. So
2019.
Right before that
So
big,
there was no Masters of the Air yet. We hadn't really seen Red Cross Girls on screen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We
So
knew
this
they
was
existed,
before the
but we didn't
big
know
boom of, you know,
of us, really.
hey.
Big boom of us doing something. Exactly. So yes, for it to have been written and published then
Yeah.
in 2019 and it be that good and that accurate, that's
Yeah.
what makes it for me.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's what makes it so good for me.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, this is only because the beginning I struggled with. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
Like a 4.5 out of 5.
Like 4.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that would be the general consensus. I think for all of us, the beginning was just like, oh my God, where are we going?
I wanted them to get there already.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Yeah, I
just
think that's what it
get
was.
there.
It was
Get
like,
to Europe already.
I
Just get to
know,
Europe.
yeah, I know where they're going and I
Yeah.
want them to get there now.
Exactly.
But
We
why
know
are
where they're going,
we...
so it's
Yeah.
like, please just get there.
Yes, I think that was it. That was it. But yeah, I knew that we would all agree. And
Yeah.
I knew that because we all said that
We
3
usually
months
do
ago.
all agree, and we usually all pick these books together anyway. So
Exactly. The next one I unfortunately did not read because every time I ordered it, my order got cancelled. So that was fun. So if both of you have the Spark Notes version, our next book to discuss is Shot Down by Stephen Snyder.
I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I did enjoy it. And one of the main reasons for me is that we have read so many books about bomber pilots and bomber boys, and they all kind of tie back to or relate back to the 100th.
Yes, whereas this one did not.
This
one did not. I really liked it. And I think one of the reasons I did really like it is because every kind of B-17 bomber book we read kind of ties back to the 100th in some capacity.
Yeah.
And obviously the 8th Air Force. And this, Steve Snyder's father, Howard, was part of the 8th Air Force, but he was in the 306th. So it was interesting to see life at Thurleg versus life at Thorpe Abbotts, which we have obviously dug really deeply into. I think all three of us have dug really deeply into the history and the life of the 100th and Thorpe Abbotts. So to see it written and see everything kind of about Thurleg was really interesting. That I really enjoyed. He had a lot of great pictures of his dads in the book. He had descriptions of officers' quarters versus, enlisted men's quarters. And his dad's journey was really interesting.
Yeah.
His dad's journey was really interesting. He was a replacement crew.
Yeah.
He gets there in 43. Yes. So
okay. So he's like one of the first sets of replacements
he's
for the 8th
one
Air
of the
Force.
first sets of replacements. I believe he gets there after, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he gets there after Black Week. Okay.
Yeah, that would make
okay.
So yeah,
So
he
gets there, I believe, after Bremen and Munster.
Yeah.
He does talk about briefly the losses that the 100th incurred in Black. He talks about how the 100th became really quickly, like it's in there very briefly, how the 100th became the Bloody 100th because of the vast number of planes they lost during Black Week and Munster.
Okay. Yeah. Jeez.
But he is there in 43 because I remember he talks about and again, I read this back in like January, February, so it's been a minute.
Yeah, you read it pretty quickly.
I read it pretty quickly. I read it pretty early. But he talks about his dad kind of getting acclimated to life on base and a lot of training missions, and that he was going up with crews that weren't his.
Right.
So he was a pilot, but he was going up as co-pilot with other crews. He was also on the basketball team for the 306. They had like a basketball team, a couple of teams, and they would play. Sometimes they'd play against other bases. Sometimes they'd play against each other. And then his father incurs an ankle injury and is out of commission from playing basketball and is out of commission for quite a while.
So he's grounded.
So he's grounded after, I think he's grounded after like 3 or 4 missions.
How long is he grounded?
Until pretty much mid to late January of 44. Then he starts to go up on training missions. He's got like a walking cast. He starts to go up on training missions just to get the feel back for flying again.
Okay, yeah.
So now he's about to go up in February. February 44, he goes up and it's the first mission where he's flying with his whole crew since they came over from the States.
Okay, so he gets to be with
He gets to be, it's his whole crew. When they got to Thurlig, the crew was kind of broken up. So he went and flew co-pilot with, somebody else. His co-pilot went and flew with somebody else. His bombardier, his navigator, they were all kind of split up in a way, I guess, to get a feel for flying and missions. They hadn't flown together. They finally all go up together in February of 44, and they get shot down over Belgium.
And that's their first mission.
That's their first mission. All 10 of these men together. That is their first mission. And he really talks about the struggle of his dad being away from home, being away from his mother, being away from his oldest sister, Susan Ruth, who the plane is named after.
Oh, wow.
His mother's name was Ruth. Snyder's oldest sister, Susan Ruth, is the name of their B-17. It's the Susan Ruth.
Oh, that's cute.
That's so sweet.
I really like that.
It was very sweet. There was a lot of life on base, letters and excerpts home. And then you really, like the second half of the book, you really get to the escape and evasion. And because he writes it, not his dad, he's going based off of his dad's letters, his dad's memories. So you really also get a lot of what did the other members of his crew go through in the escape and evasion. Some of them were executed. Some of them were found out by the Germans because there was a rat in their inner circle in Belgium. In the ring of people that were hiding down airmen, and the Germans came and found them and arrested them, interrogated them, marched them back into the woods where they were hiding, and then executed them. And one of the men that was executed was Howard Snyder's co-pilot.
Oh, geez. Oh, my goodness.
Who had a wife and child at home.
Oh, gosh.
Christ, that's horrible.
There is a lot of detail on, what some of the other men, where they were hiding, who they were hiding with. There's pictures of these. And it was very interesting to me because you're there hiding. Right. But there were so many pictures of his dad, Howard, with the people that were hiding him.
Like, no, don't do that.
So, like, they had taken pictures.
Interesting.
They had taken pictures. And now the pictures are obviously they're published in this book, but at the time I'm like, is this really safe? But then you have to think like nothing was instant, right? So film wasn't. But then again, if somebody came in and inspected your house, because the Germans would come through and ransack people's houses, if they found a camera, if they found anything that had film in it, they would probably take it and develop it and use it to use it as evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. I got into it big time in the second half with the escape and evasion.
Yeah.
Which I liked a lot to read about the escape and evasion.
Yeah.
I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Like from the very brief conversation we've had with Steve Snyder and like the little I know without reading the book and just Googling his dad's name, I feel like I would also have found the second half of the book. Again, you're kind of slowly going through like at the beginning I feel like it's stuff that we have read before in previous books about these men. It's sort of things that like we were already familiar with. I feel like maybe I have like a slight advantage over that because I know where Thurley is. I can picture it in my mind. I know where things were in terms of the village. I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So for me, it would feel really familiar. But the escape and evasion, I feel like would like really kickstart.
The first half of the book lends itself to the times, right? Daily life, the grind, the monotony of wake up, ground school, training, So the beginning of the book, it lends itself to what actually was going on. So it's not like I'm like, oh my God, it was so boring. It stunk. No, it wasn't boring. It just was an actual telling of what these men were doing.
Yeah. And I feel that it adds like a sense of humanity to the whole thing. It adds a sense of these were real people doing real things and they were fighting a very real war. But besides that, they got to play basketball and they got to hang out with each other. And
They would
and
go
that
into
kind
they
of
would go
thing.
into town, they would go on R&R, they'd go to London. Like, this is
Yeah,
what they did.
yeah.
This
I
is what
like
it was
that.
like.
Yeah.
I do like that aspect of it.
Which I do,
That
I do enjoy those types of books as well, because it's like, what did they
yeah.
do?
Yeah.
It adds humanity, and it makes him a lot more
It
real. It's
does.
not just some
I
guy in
love
a
hearing about like
story
a
who
daily
thought,
life.
Yes.
yeah, me
He really
too. I
does write
love
the bit
those.
about his father going down very well.
He writes it very well,
He
yeah,
writes it very
from what
well,
you
and he
shared with
uses
us.
excerpts from his dad's letters too, and his dad's
Right.
diaries to kind of flesh it out from a first person perspective as well,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is very interesting because you get the like sort of written from a third person biography of it, and then you get these
Yeah.
letters from his dad to his mom or his dad's journal entries, and it's like all of a sudden you're sucked into the first person,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, you're right there.
I think I remember asking him when we had a brief conversation with Steve Snyder. I asked if it was the same as Tim Pitt's writing his mother Fleitcher's book. Was it a case of his dad wrote some and then passed it on to Steve to publish, or was it Steve
Yeah.
went out of his way to write this book about his dad and his crew?
Right.
And I do like that it was very similar to Fleitcher's book, where it was like a little of both. It
A
was
little of
still,
both.
it was Howard's memories, but Stephen has taken on the task of writing it and publishing it and
Yes.
making sure that the story is told to a lot of
Mhm.
people. So I also really like that aspect of it. I will read it. I absolutely will read it. But every single time I would click order, it would say, actually, no. But that's
Not
on
for
me. I was
you.
getting it. I was getting it from thrift books.
I'm
And it would always
surprised.
be,
Thrift books is usually very
I
reliable.
know. But
Yeah.
with that, it was like, oh, one remaining. And then I'd click it and get the
Oh.
one, and then it would say, oh, sorry, someone else did it at the same time. And I'm assuming it was one of our people that did it, so I'm not going to be upset. I'm very much assuming the reason we're making this episode is because someone has been reading them. So
I hope so.
I'm assuming that's the reason. But yes, I'm very excited to get into it.
You will enjoy
for
it.
sure.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Did you read it?
I started it, but something about it, I just couldn't get into it when I started reading it. So,
Yeah,
but
it's
this
difficult,
conversation has made me want to try again.
Try again, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely one of those where you pick it up, put it down, and then you can try again at another time. It's not like one of those where,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
You'll enjoy it. You really will.
Yeah, I think I will. The next up is our favorite that we have already discussed as our favorite. Spitfires by Becky Aikman is next.
Yes.
Sage, I know that you loved this one.
I loved this one.
Go off.
How many times have we read it now?
I want to say this is the third or fourth time I've read it.
Fourth, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was my fourth time reading it too.
Wow, I only read it twice.
It's
You
so
guys,
good.
I'm slacking.
So good. Sage, go. Yeah.
I just, oh
Sage,
my
go
gosh.
off. So much to say.
So much. Gosh, well, I know that so many of the books we've read have been about like, the WASP girlies and
Yeah.
everyone stationed over here. Spitfires, we get to see what was going on across the pond.
Yes.
And it was really interesting getting to see like first of all these American girls trying to adapt to British culture at the time.
Yeah. It's very
that was
difficult. Something. Absolutely was something.
Very entertaining to read, honestly.
No, honestly, for me too, because even though in a lot of like history stuff during school, you're told about rationing, you're told about the Blitz, you're told about blackout precautions and stuff like that. You're never really told the cultural aspect, especially for Americans. You're never told how much of a culture shock it was for these people to go over to Europe to fight a war for their country when they're not even in their country.
Yeah.
And adapt. So that was also really entertaining for me to read as well.
Yeah.
Like the way that these women adapted to it.
I love the part that comes to mind is like the first American girls like their ship gets there, and they're met with, I want to say she was sort of like the leader of like the women in the ATA at the Pauline Gower.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, if you're up to it, we'd love to like meet you all for dinner."
Yeah. And she sits and waits in this restaurant and they don't turn up. But they were like, you said if we were up to it, and we weren't. So
Right.
So and it was not a suggestion. It was
not a suggestion.
Correct.
But it's already the cultural block of the way that Brits speak. We say things that we don't mean in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're up to it, which means you will be there.
Correct.
But it was so polite that it's let me know. No. Whereas it was sort of it was a demand and that demand wasn't met. I guess this is also it is pre-WASP, isn't it? It's before all of that kicks off.
This is definitely pre-WASP because this is when
Jackie's there and then she like leaves.
Hap Arnold basically tells her if you want to fly, you should go to England.
Yeah, so I think the program for the American women was led by Jackie Cochran, but the women's branch of the ATA was led by Pauline Gower, who we have just mentioned. But ironically, even though that Jackie is technically the lead of these women, she is also grounded. Didn't she have like an
Jackie Cochran doesn't fly because she's got sinus issues.
That's the one.
Then I want to say it says in the book that she washed out at some point.
She did, because I think her balance was off or something.
Yeah.
She couldn't meet the requirements, so she ended up.
She had vertigo or something.
While.
Basically, it sounds like she had vertigo.
Something,
But
she stays in England for a while and she kind of schmoozes for a little bit. Until she catches word that Nancy Love is
forming the
be
WASP.
in charge of the WASP, and she hotfoots it back. And then she leaves someone in her place, essentially, and I've forgotten her name, and this is really bad. The woman that was like Jackie's right hand.
I know who. Yes.
Yeah.
Anne was like the unofficial.
Anne Wood was like her unofficial right-hand woman. And this was very interesting because you find out through Anne's kind of telling of Jackie things that you didn't know about Jackie. Like, Jackie was illiterate. Jackie couldn't read. Anne did a lot of transcribing and a lot of helping, and Anne and she kept it quiet.
Yeah. I believe Becky says like when we interviewed her for our episode.
When we interviewed Becky.
She said that Becky Aikman said that this was the first book to ever reveal that Jackie Cochran was illiterate.
Yes.
Because she had a first or second grade education and she worked in factories as a kid.
She started working in factories when she was like 8 or 9.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So
like a cotton factory, I believe, but it does make sense. No
one else had ever revealed that.
No, I found it very interesting in how the women were trained, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the difference in what they were given benefit-wise versus what the women in America were getting when they joined the WASP. Yeah. These women in the ATA, they had insurance.
Equal pay.
Equal pay. They were given officer ranks, right? So they had insurance, they had equal pay, officer ranks, and
they were technically militarized right off the bat because
the
ATA
was an offshoot of the RAF. And which explains why when some of the women were asked, do you want to go? And they were like contracted for like 18 months, right? Like a year and a half, something like that. So that was one of the differences. When you joined the ATA, you were contracted for X amount of time. Whereas if you were in the WASP, you were in the WASP. You were in the WASP until you were discharged, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is why when a lot of women's contract came up at the end of 18 months and Jackie had started forming the WASP, she was reaching out to some of her former ATA pilots. They were like, no, I think I'm going to stay. Very few of them went and joined the WASP.
I think a couple did. A couple that washed out of the ATA, they went back.
Maybe some of the women washed out of the ATA, but also I feel like maybe the training wasn't as rigorous in the ATA. It was military training, but it wasn't U.S. Air Force military training, which
it seemed like they trusted these women more in the ATA than they did in the
They
WASP.
did. I get that
There was still-
impression.
There was still a very American attitude surrounding women in the WASP, where she should be in the kitchen, she should be taking care of her family, she's dainty, she's soft. They had to train them to be hard, they had to train them to be men. Whereas in the ATA, because they treated them equally and they paid them equally, they therefore saw them as equal to any man that was flying for the ATA too.
Yeah.
So the training for the ATA was not as rigorous.
And these women had more freedoms.
Instantly.
They had more freedoms.
Far more freedom. Yeah. They could go off base.
People joke about Cochrane's convent with the WASP, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. Absolutely,
it's true.
it is. They had far more freedom. They could bill it wherever they wanted to. They got to choose where they stayed in the ATA, whereas obviously in the WASP, if you're in training, you're
in those barracks in Sweetwater, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot more trust within the ATA, and I know that these women did miss home and were homesick. And the chapters where a few of them return home for R&R for like 2 weeks, and they eat and eat and eat because they can. Nothing's boiled cabbage, and
they can have a hamburger.
Yeah, but it also seems like that was the highlight of their R&R. Like, I ate really great food, but I can't wait to go back and fly.
Yeah. And I think a few of them, while they're there, they're approached again by Jackie, aren't they? To come and join the WASP, and they're like, no. They've laughed her out of there.
And the thing is, the ATA, I loved that the ATA, it was like, yes, there was American women, but there were so many other cultures.
So many other cultures.
It was very diverse. It was very robust. And there was
segregation did not exist in England during the war.
No, it didn't.
That's why the 6 AAA got on so well in Birmingham, because there was no segregation.
Yeah.
The women were accepted. They were looked at as like marvels to begin with, because a lot of white Brits at that time had never seen an African American person. They had read about them and seen them in movies, but they had never actually seen one up close. So very, very different, because there's no segregation. They all just kind of got on with it. And I think it proves a point that these white American women just got on with it, which proves that this issue was not a countrywide popular issue. It was just
an American issue.
If you select people just happen to rule America, it was terrible. And they were like, I don't care, I get to fly. Didn't bother them in the slightest. So I will probably read it again.
Oh, absolutely. I'll read it again.
Absolutely.
I will definitely read it again.
I love reading about their lives after they left England and left the ATA, and
that was so nice to read.
Yeah, the post-war life stuff.
And I like that they stayed in touch, these women.
Yes.
They were all friends.
They were all friends, these American women. They stayed friends till they died.
They'd get together
as well.
Oh gosh, I can't remember her name, but it was her and her partner. They had a ranch out west. Virginia, yes.
Virginia Farr, yes.
Yes. And they all the Atta girls would get together at the ranch.
I loved it.
Yeah, isn't that so sweet?
I loved it.
I think this is the one I'm giving a 5 out of
5.
5.
Always.
I'm giving this a 5 out of 5.
Stars.
Yeah.
10 stars all the time. 10 out of 5, actually.
Always and forever.
I
all the stars for Becky Aikman and the Atta girls.
It's so well written too. Like it's not one of those slogs where you're like, oh Jesus, history. Let me just get through it for the sake of it. I was enthralled.
The narrative is really well written.
It is. She did her research.
Yeah.
Becky did her research.
And we heard how much she did in the episode that she did with us. We heard, all the effort she went through to find relatives of these women.
Oh, yeah. And she definitely didn't leave any stones unturned. And
no.
That episode is out now, guys. So if you missed it.
Oh, yes.
Go back.
If you missed it, go back.
No.
Because it's really, really good.
She's delightful.
It's enjoyable.
She's so delightful.
Yeah. So I think we all agree. Again, we're on the same sort of wavelength. It was excellent, and we all adored it. Our last book is an 8th Air Force Combat Diary by John Clark of the 100th Bomb Group. Now, in a previous book club quarter, we read his wife Marie's book, She Was a Wasp, and that was Dear Mother and Daddy. So this was nice to have a sequel, prequel.
Companion?
I don't know. Who wrote it first?
I think they wrote them both around the same time. So when we interviewed Eloise, she was like, "Oh, Mommy and Daddy's book."
Yeah.
Or Mommy and Daddy's books. They were both self-published. And
yeah, they're both hefty books.
Hefty.
Yes.
I had to read these at home because I couldn't travel. Usually I travel to work with a book in my purse.
Yeah.
And I can fit a book in my purse.
Can't fit these in.
These were coffee table books that I read at home after work because they were just big.
Mm-hmm.
They were a little hefty to be traveling with. And, also, if somebody's sitting next to me on the bus, I feel really bad whipping out a textbook size. Just like the book opens and it's half in their lap. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I'm really sorry. But this book is
so
huge.
Sorry. But back to the 100th Bomb Group, right, guys? Do we always
circle
back? We always kind of circle back.
Always a circle, yeah.
To Thor Babbitt's.
I
loved it because it was just interesting to read his perspective on his missions. That's genuinely what it is. It's John Clark's diary entries from every mission he flew. And he came in as a replacement in 44.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a replacement crew. So on top of, all of his diary entries, he's also writing kind of interludes in between, like, we went on R&R, or this is what it was like to come in as a replacement. And you get a sense of what did they would taxi, and he's so cute. He struggled with finding the right amount of clothes to wear because of the combat gear, because they're like, it's really cold up there. So he would like bundle up, but then he doesn't realize, he didn't realize that he's putting so much effort into flying the plane that now he's sweating through his heated shoes and his heated trousers. And I'm like, oh, this poor man.
Oh, John.
But he goes on for a bit about how I've perfected the flight gear. That's the phrase he uses. I perfected the flight gear situation, where he figures out exactly how much of the heated clothing to wear and what to leave behind. And then on top of all that, right, he's got his B-2 bomber jacket, he's got his flak vest, he's got his Mae West. And it's like this
is
and he was in, and if you see pictures of John Clark, Marie talks about this in her book, where he was, as Winnie likes to use the phrase, only little.
He was only little.
He was a very small fella. He wasn't very tall. So he's got all this combat gear on, and he says it was very hard to move.
He's gonna fall over.
I'm picturing, I don't know if you guys have seen A Christmas Story.
Yes.
I'm picturing the little kid all bundled up.
In the snowsuit?
That's exactly it. That is exactly it.
But it was very interesting because he really puts the time of, we taxied at 8:55, or engines were on at 8:45. We taxied out at 8:55. We took off at 9:10. And then they would circle over the homing beacon, which was Buncher 28. And I actually went to Matt Mabe and I asked him, I was like, what's the difference between Buncher 28 and Splasher 6?
Yeah, what's
the difference? I had to go to the expert here. They had two different, where they would bring the group together, homing beacons, where they would use it to get into formation. And he talks about how sometimes getting into formation would take 2 hours. So they would just circle the airfield for 2 hours. So now I understand Harry Crosby's air sickness. Like, I genuinely understand it now, that they were going in circles like that for 2 hours before they actually started to fly straight out.
Could not.
Jesus, yeah.
Right? Straight out to the channel.
Yeah.
Poor Cross was being taken around in circles for an hour and a half on each mission. No wonder the poor guy was airsick constantly.
Yeah.
It makes sense now. But it was very, very detailed. He really is a detailed, his diary entries are very detailed, and he does,
Seems very methodical.
He talks about leaving Las
Yes.
Vegas and how he had gotten to Las Vegas and how he met Marie, and it was
with
so
their little records.
how she was playing Debussy on the record player in the Officers Club in Las Vegas. And he
He's
talks
like, oh,
about,
I like this one.
and he goes, oh yes, I like this. He says, I had no idea who it
He
was.
hasn't got a clue. He hasn't got a clue who it is. I found that so sweet though. And the
It's
fact that, you know,
adorable.
reading it from that point of view and then also reading it from Marie's point of view as
Yes.
well is so
Yes.
cute, because she's very, oh, I met this man, but I'm already going steady with another guy, and then she has to choose between him and someone else. Whereas from John's perspective, it's Marie, only Marie.
I met Marie
Forever
and that was it.
Marie.
Yes.
Let me just chase this
Yeah.
woman forever until she makes her mind up. And I think she felt a bit funny being older than him.
Yeah.
In the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things, it isn't that big of a gap, but I think to her, because she was older than him, she was like, oh, I feel a bit funny about it. I don't remember how big the gap was between them, but in the
not
grand
big
scheme
in
of
the
it,
grand
I don't
scheme of
think it
things,
was
from what I
big.
understand.
Was it
No, from what I remember,
five
maybe
years?
5 years.
Yeah, I think so.
That's nothing, especially these days. That's nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
I like he doesn't ever shy away from his faith, right? So, and I don't just mean I don't just mean his faith in his religion and his faith in, because he does say a lot, you know, I put my faith in God and God protected us on this flight.
He's very religious.
But he puts his faith in his crew too. He has full faith in his crew that they're all gonna,
all gonna make it.
They're gonna make it.
They all trust each other.
And he is very aware of, oh, this was a tough one, or oh, the engine's on this plane's been through a lot and it's kind of slow, but we're gonna tough it out and we're gonna do our best with it. And he's got faith, all around faith.
I really like that. I love that, especially because he was so young at the time as well.
He was young. He was a replacement. He was, he's coming into a group that has been named the Bloody 100th for a reason.
Yeah.
And
he's going into that with that knowledge.
He's going in with that knowledge, knowing what just happened, right? He's coming in early 44. Black Week has come and gone.
Black Week.
Yeah. He knows what has happened, and he knows
what has happened, and he's doing this anyway.
Yeah. I love him. I think he's so sweet. I love seeing his face, because he's got such a sweet face. And him and Marie together were just lovely. Just so sweet. So cute. I love seeing pictures of them together.
Yeah. And I love that she wore her WASP uniform till the very end, really.
Yes. I love that.
There's that interview we found from Baylor University. The same group of people that we used the Josie Egan interview from. They apparently have an entire collection of WASP interviews.
Amazing.
So
sit
tight, because they have promised them to us. They've promised us access to the WASP interviews. They're working on getting them loaded to their site for a project in late April. So they will become more available, but we have access now to Josie Egan and Marie Mountain Clark. She wears her uniform in her interview, and she's just the most adorable. She's the most adorable and
so cute.
Hearing her voice now it's like if you go back and read her letters, you can hear her voice in her letters. Because we had previously heard like John Clark. There's a lot of interviews with men of the 100th. If you go back and if you find documentaries, there's a lot on them, especially the one that is technically episode 10 of Masters of the Air, right? The Bloody 100th documentary at the end of Masters. Yeah. They interview John.
Yeah.
He's in there.
I love him.
And you have his voice, right? So when you're reading his book, you've got his voice.
You've already got it. Yeah.
It's like reading Harry Crosby's book. You can read it in Cros's voice.
Yeah.
So to then hear Marie's voice in this oral interview, I want to go back to her book and read some of her letters again, because now you can put it into that kind of box of, this is what she sounded like. These letters now read a different way, kind of.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I like when you have heard a person's voice and then you read their text or their prose and it reads the way you would expect them to sound.
Yeah. I do think that's going way back to Cros's book. I think that's what made that read so easy as well, is that you had heard an iteration of his voice if you watched the show and hadn't watched any interviews with the real man. if you'd have watched Masters of the Air and then you hear Anthony Boyle
As
portraying
Cross,
him
yeah.
and narrating him
Yeah.
as Cross, you get a sense, and Anthony Boyle did such a great job because that is truly very similar to what Harry Crosby did sound like.
Yeah, very, very
Yeah.
similar.
Very similar.
Rebecca even said Anthony, he wasn't dad, but he was dad.
But he was dad. Not tall enough to be dad.
Oh,
but...
he took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, I think the only difference would be that she said, dad was 6 feet tall and Anthony is not.
Here's the thing, it was the pause that she did that tickled me that day, because I spat coffee everywhere that day. Dad was really tall and Anthony
The universe ever sees fit, right, for us to ever meet Anthony Boyle, I'm gonna just look at him and go, Rebecca Crosby was right, you're not tall.
You know what I'm gonna say?
Yes.
He's only little.
He's only little. Winnie's favorite phrase. He's only little.
He's only little. John's book is, of course, it's great, and I feel like
good.
because we have such a personal connection to
the 100th,
him and the 100th, and to him and Marie through Eloise.
Yes.
It makes it again all the more personal, and we know the story anyway, but to have it from his perspective as well, is great. So I honestly, we recommend anyone read that as well. Add to your 100th Bomb Group memoir collection.
Yeah,
it's ever growing for us.
You can purchase both John and Marie's book through the 100th Bomb Group PX. So if you're gonna get them, if you're gonna pick them up together anywhere, we implore you, please support the 100th Bomb Group and order it through the PX
and get both books together.
Yeah, I think they should. I really just think they should start selling them as a set.
Absolutely,
I agree.
Please.
In fact, let's start that. Hey, friends, put them together as a deal. Thank you so much. But no, we had an excellent first quarter.
We did have an excellent first quarter. And shall we announce the Q2 books? Shall I share with everybody?
Go ahead.
All right. So these are the books for second quarter. So this is April through June, April, May, and June. And apologies to any men in our book club, but these are all for the girls. It just hit me. I was like, oh, they're all for the girls. Whoops. So the 4 books we've selected for April through June are Slinging Donuts for the Boys by James H. Madison, and If I Perish by Evelyn Monahan, Propaganda Girls by Lisa Rogak, and Wasp of the Ferry Command, Women Pilots, Uncommon Deeds by Sarah Bryan Rickman. So we are kind of touching on everything.
A little bit of everything again.
A little bit of everything. We've got Donut Dollies, we've got Wasp, we've got women in
Army Nurses
in And If I Perish, and then the Propaganda Girls, and we are going to cover lots of fun stuff in the next 3 months.
Yeah, very
I'm excited to reread Propaganda Girls.
I'm excited to read it. I am excited to read it. I am in the middle of another book at the moment.
We didn't mention our new feature to
Book
Club. We have
go on, Winnie.
Where this was a really silly idea of mine. We read 4 books for the few months of the quarter, so I thought, why not add some more? We are going to be adding recommendations from our own personal collections of things we are reading in between the books of the quarter, just so you guys get more recommendations from us.
Correct.
I have just finished reading 5 Came Back by Mark Harris, about the 5 Hollywood directors that enlisted in World War II. William Wyler, who made Memphis Belle, John Ford. It's a really great book. I found it very enjoyable. And I'm also working through Masters of the Air. I'm also doing Goodnight Irene again, because apparently I just don't like myself.
You're just a glutton for punishment.
I'm just a glutton for punishment, truly. Gabby, what else are you reading in between?
So I am currently halfway through The Navigator's Letter by Jan Crestandi, which is about B-24 liberators in the currently in the North Africa theater
Yes.
of war and the massive raid on Ploesti. It's about
I'm excited to read that.
two boys. It is about two boys from the same hometown and their connection to each other through the sister of one of the boys.
Wow. Okay.
And it's very interesting because they both end up becoming navigators. One becomes a navigator first.
Okay.
And then the other one, because he's a little bit older.
Right.
And the other one becomes a navigator. And then kind of, I'm at the point now where he's finding himself in the same shoes as the boy from his town that started before him. And I don't want to give too much away because A, I haven't finished it yet, so I can't really give too much away. But B, I want people to read this because there is an upcoming interview with author Jan Crestandi on the podcast. We will be speaking with her very soon.
So excited.
So I don't want to give too much away either because I want her to be able to, you know, it's something that I want us to all discuss together with her. But it's very interesting to me because I haven't really dug into, and I don't think any of us have really dug into liberator bomber groups, right?
No.
Even though the 8th Air Force had divisions of B-17s and divisions of liberators, for some reason, the Flying Fortress, and I wouldn't say rightfully so, but the Flying Fortress, the B-17 Flying Fortress has always kind of come out as the shining contender of bombers during the war. But surprisingly, I did not know this until recently. The Liberator was slightly bigger, but the B-17 came first.
B-17 came first. The
B-17 came first. The Liberator came after, and it's bigger.
Is way
bigger.
See,
I mean, and
after having seen both,
they just continually get bigger as they make more. Like, because then if you get to the super fortress, forget it. The B-17 is a dwarf.
No, it is. Like at the museum here, the B-17 and the B-29 are very close to each other.
Yeah.
And if you look from like a certain distance ratio, the B-29 is gargantuan, and the B-17 is like, hello.
And it's funny because, right? And it's funny because when I went to the museum in New Orleans, they have a B-24 nose, just the nose, and they have it plexiglassed off at the back where you can look into the cockpit. Really cool. And you can look into the nose, and it is wide. And wider, they have a B-17 suspended from the ceiling, and we walked in, and they have all other planes suspended from the ceiling, and the B-17 dwarfs everything. And I remember my mom looking up and going, "Oh my God, it goes from one end to the other." And I said, "Yeah,
big dog."
And I said, "Let's go." They have different viewing platforms. And I said, "I want to go all the way up to the top and see it." And we stood at the top and kind of looked over the railing a little bit. And there's the B-17 stretched out completely.
She's a big girl.
It's our gal Sal.
Yes.
That was
wonderful.
Rescued and restored. And then they have it hanging in the Boeing wing of the museum. And she is tremendous. So to think that there are planes, you know, and
bigger than that.
And I said to my mother, I said, "This is not the biggest plane." I said, "She's beautiful. She's the biggest, but she's not the biggest."
She's not the biggest.
She's not the biggest. So that's currently what I'm reading, The Navigator's Letter. And I am also slogging my way back through Masters of the Air because I had a hard time with it. I had a hard time with it when we first started it because we didn't know so much about the 8th. We didn't know so much about, we had just kind of started our research into everything.
And now that we know more, it's a lot easier.
It's a lot easier because you know what they're talking about.
Yeah, you have kind of a better sense of it.
Yeah.
Sage, what are you reading in between?
I recently finished this fantastic book called Fly Girls by Sherry L. Smith.
Yes.
And it's fiction, historical fiction, but it's so well written, so well researched. It's about this Black girl in Louisiana who has such a passion for flying. And then when the U.S. enters the war, her brother enlists in the army and gets shipped off. And she is stuck in Louisiana, like
not being able to fight.
Yeah, she's like collecting stockings for parachutes and
Oh goodness.
yeah. And then she reads in the newspaper about this organization called the Wasp. And
Hmm.
she's like, "Oh, I want to do this. This is like going to be the only way I get to fly and get to like actually contribute."
Right.
The problem is the Wasp will not accept colored girls.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she decides to try to pass as white.
Oh wow.
She decides
Wow.
she decides her skin is light enough and there's another girl in town who's like trying to do that. So she's like, "Well, why can't I do that?" So it's sort of her doing that and joining the Wasp while at the same time trying to like make sure no one finds out.
That's amazing.
It's
That's a
so
great premise.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
it's
need to read that
amazing.
too.
That's
It's
incredible.
historical fiction, but it's so well researched. I had to like keep reminding myself that this is not a memoir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited to read
It's
that
so
as
good.
well. I think we have it coming up in one of the quarters of the year, so we will all
Mhm.
read it either in between or fall.
We have it coming up or we're gonna fit.
Or we're
We
going
do.
to.
We do. It's somewhere. Don't worry.
It's somewhere.
Mhm.
It's
But
in
yeah,
there.
I'm very excited for
Yeah.
y'all to read it.
yeah, me too. I'm very excited. Well, with that, we hope that you enjoyed our review of the 4 books of the quarter. We're super excited to get into the ones for Q2. Um, and yeah, we will see you guys next time. Thank you for listening
Yes, we will see you
again.
guys next time. And
Yes,
Thank you, Sage.
if you have any book recommendations for us,
Throw them our way.
drop
please,
them in our
yes.
messages, send them over in an email because we're always
We're
reading
always looking.
and we're
Always
always
reading,
reading.
always
Yeah.
looking. Yeah.
So,
And thank you again, Sage, for joining us.
yes, thank you,
Thank you
We
guys
always
again
Sage.
for
love it
having
when you're
me. This
here
is
with
always such
us.
a blast.
Of course. Yay.
All
All right.
right,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you so much, and we will catch you real soon.
Bye.